We haven't even started the live stream, and already your generosity amazes me once again. Bartleby, as Shahar said, always great. And then I see that we got another 20 memberships from Bartleby. Bartleby gave both of them. Ah, Bartleby. So kind of you. 40 memberships. Very, very, very sweet. So, hey, Sarah, welcome back. It's so nice to see everybody. You guys are great. I love you guys. I'm glad that we have some really great stories to discuss today. Oh, we're going to have a good time. And we, of course, have one more stream, which will be tomorrow. It's a little light this week. Hey, Batjacks. Jerome, I always appreciate you gifting a membership. Emmett, I got my Barbie tickets. I did. I hope everybody got their Barbie tickets. I have to say, not selling as fast as the Wednesday night fan screenings did, but still, I'm excited. Hey, Andrew, thanks for gifting a membership. Jimmy, welcome back. I think, like, in New York City, the ticket sales are pretty good for all the movies. But I feel, Haunted Autumn, thank you for gifting a membership. But I feel like I've been checking theaters in the middle of the country, and ticket sales aren't moving quite as fast. So hopefully, I think a lot of walk-up business potentially. Look at everybody. It's so nice. Armando gifted a membership. Hey, Dwight. Thanks for joining. Hey, Ezra. I'm glad you'll be catching the stream later. So we have, again, as I said, and another membership was gifted. Thank you, Jake. That was very kind of you. Again, if you would like to be gifted a membership, YouTube decides who to gift memberships to. I gift memberships every first stream of the week. And the way it works is that YouTube gives out the memberships to people who are the most interactive with the channel. So if you watch a lot of videos, if you're subscribed, if you were a member previously, if you comment, if you like, YouTube notices that and feels you would like a membership and gives it to you. Thanks for gifting a membership, Aaron. Whatever you can gift is very kind. Dancing Dog 60 gift some more memberships. Dancing Dog 60 is also quite generous. You guys, everybody though, it's a whole community. You guys are all wonderful. So we got some great stuff to talk about today. And yes, Callahan pointed out, if you'd like to like this stream and maybe subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate it. And it would increase your odds of getting a gifted membership. So Hazen says, I got a membership the second I got here. That's great, Hazen. That's wonderful. All right, so as I said, juicy stuff. Let's keep the stream comments on track. Oh, wow, innovative David. So kind. Very generous of you yet again. Happy Hump Day, Grace. Saw The Flash last night. Curious, do you think if there were more Justice League cameos, the film would have done better? You know, it's hard for me to say because I liked the film so much as is that it just seems that some people just don't care for it. And I think that the big part of it, as I discussed on Movie Math on Sunday, was DC drama. Just a lot of DC drama that I feel like they're not going to be able to get rid of it unless they take a break. Just like Star Wars is taking a break and still having issues, quite frankly. Although I'm loving me some Star Wars Rebels. It's so good. Thank you to everybody who suggested that I watch it. All right. Hey, James. Yeah. So let's get started. Bartleby, another 20 memberships. Oh, my goodness. That's 60 from Bartleby today alone. Wow. We're going to have, I think, 2,000 memberships gifted this month for sure because we have another month, another week still. That's fantastic. Wow, Bartleby. You're a very generous individual, so thank you. And again, as I've said, if you want to gift this channel and support this channel, it's really great to do it through a gifted membership because then somebody else benefits from it. Hey, Kobe. All right. Hey, Connor. All right, let's get started. Let's start this stream. Now, please keep your comments starting now on to the story that we're discussing. And even then, I still might not answer you until I say, do you have any comments or questions about this story? If you do something earlier, you're rolling the dice, I might not get to it. I'm not going to be able to go back and see your comment. Then, of course, as always, for the final 10 minutes of the stream, you can ask me anything that you want. So that's where I'm going to be a little more strict about it. If you ask me something that's off topic earlier, I'm just not going to answer it. I'm sorry to say. All right, let's get started. All right, story number 1. Boop! Oh, Marvel skipping Comic-Con. This was pretty shocking yesterday, but I think after we discuss it, because after I thought about it and I asked around a little bit, I was like, actually not that surprising. And you have to wonder if this is just the beginning. Boy, the people who run Comic-Con got to be sweating something fierce, because I bet they never suspected to be taken out by the strikes themselves. But I think there are other issues at play. There's no D23 this year, Marco. There is something called Destination D23, which is for D23 members and Disney fans. That's held in Orlando at Disney World. D23, that's okay, Marco. D23 is, for some reason, D23 is every other year. So they had a D23 last year as well. Marvel presented at both of them and did a fantastic job. So D23 won't be again until next year. And I think Marvel is glad, because I don't think they want to talk to anybody. So let's discuss. Let's discuss. Now, also in the coverage, it was confirmed that Universal and HBO might also be sitting out Comic-Con, and that's just the start of it, because Comic-Con is still a few weeks out. Now, I have heard, and as many suspected, that the primary reason is because of the writers' strike, and also potentially the SAG strike, the Screen Actors Guild strike, which would start at the end of this month. Now, if the actors go on strike, they cannot show up to promote anything or do any promotional campaigns. So you couldn't have any actors at Comic-Con. And that could still happen, by the way. So I think a lot of these studios might be like, why even make plans when at the last minute it's very likely that our actors will have to back out. You might remember that at the upfronts just a few weeks ago, which are streaming and television presentations for advertisements, actors couldn't show up there either, because they were in that point in solidarity with their fellow writers. But they might soon be on strike as well. Now, as many of you are saying, and I agree with that, okay, I think a big problem is this guy, Mr. Jonathan Majors. And I don't think it's a coincidence, or I doubt it's a coincidence, that this announcement came to be the afternoon of Jonathan Majors' first court appearance, with a date set for his trial, which isn't until August. So his trial is in August. And I have to say, that's right, Lloyd Lester, the man was carrying a Bible. I mean, I think everything that he does reeks of an insincere PR move. And that's right, Nacho. Tinoch Huerta's not doing him any favors either. Both these men claim to be innocent and that they have evidence to prove their innocence, yet neither one has shared said evidence. Jonathan Majors' team shared some evidence, which was actually quite damning. And I feel bad for Megan Good. That's right, that's Megan Good from the Shazam movies. And she's now his girlfriend. And everybody feels it's very bizarre. Why? Because she just started dating him after all these allegations. He's, of course, on trial for abusing another woman. So the whole thing's very, very odd. So I think that certainly Disney doesn't know how this is going to go. And they don't have to talk about it, because Loki season 2, if it's still going to come out, I don't know what they're going to do with that, isn't set to come out till October 6th anyway. So not only do I think they not want to have the fans be upset and asking them shouting questions at the stage, but I think they have another issue with that whenever you'd go to Comic-Con, there is a big press line backstage that I've participated in, back when I went to Comic-Con. I used to cover it in person, as you know. It makes no sense to actually cover it in person, so I don't. But you have to do a long press line backstage before or after your panel. And you have to, it's very long. It's tons of press. And I think that they don't want to have to answer any questions as to the regarding the future of these two individuals. So I think that's one big reason that they don't want to do it. And again, as I said, can't be a coincidence that they decided not to go the very day that Jonathan Majors' court date was set for after Comic-Con. That's right, Bubbles? Now, we're just getting started on the reasons for them to skip it. All right, so then I think they also feel there's a problem with overall quality. Let's bring up what their slate that they've been working on. Now, this was just from last year, and you can see how little progress they've made on it. They're like, oh, man, and they just pushed a bunch of these movies back. So they're like, they blew the roof off of Comic-Con last year, but I think they're like, what else could we possibly announce when a good chunk of this list is left to go? Now, obviously, I think they could have been promoting their summer 2024 lineup. Both Deadpool 3 and Captain America Brave New World are filming right now. And they could have maybe shown a little bit of footage and at least had those casts show up, which would have been really nice. But I think there are just too many other issues. And then also, some of you are wondering, what about the Fantastic Four casting announcement, which many of us had heard. Oh, Jerry, thank you. That's very generous of you. Jerry, thank you so much. So I think so. The Fantastic Four casting announcement, I think they're probably still working on it, to be honest with you. I think that they still, I only heard about Sue Storm. And I think that they can announce that at any time. I think there are too many other issues that they have to be worried about to, they'll make headlines no matter when they announce the Fantastic Four casting, quite frankly. They could even just do a little press event, but I think maybe they won't, because again, they don't want to talk to anybody. So they'll just announce it. Then another issue, which other people have been pointing out, which I believe is also true, is that it's very expensive to go to Comic-Con. You have to pay for the travel. Hey, Jordy. You have to pay for the travel, not only for your employees and their hotels, but also the top tier travel, the first class travel accommodations of your talent, if they can attend. And I think that right now, with every studio doing mass layoffs across the board, including Warner Brothers, so this is an issue for Warner Brothers as well, how are they going to do that? Mika, some stars live in LA, but for instance, what about people who are filming Deadpool right now? Deadpool 3 is not filming in Los Angeles, so they'd have to fly them in for this event. And a lot of actors are working, they're not on strike yet, so it would be difficult for them to come in. Masood, you're so cute, you got a membership. That's so cute with that emoji. So I think it would look bad, considering they laid off so many people, that they would be spending money that could have been people's salaries on a Comic-Con presentation. So I think that would look really bad. And so I think they're right to maybe consider that as well. I think the people would be upset. I mean, look at the heat that Marvel is taking for using AI on the credit sequence, the opening credit sequence for Secret Invasion today. They're like, what are we, DC? Why are we in so much drama? Now, speaking of DC, here we go. There's Mr. James Gunn, who, of course, is very good friends with Kevin Feige. We can guess that because Kevin Feige keeps things close to the vest. But they're pals. They've been pals for a while, although Gunn is still leaving. But he's been a big part of the Marvel presentations over the years. And I would suspect that Gunn is itching to prove that he can deliver a DC presentation that is as strong as a Marvel presentation. And to be fair, I think that maybe he could do it, to be honest with you. I think that there's a chance that he could. Would he maybe be blatantly copying Marvel to a degree? Sure, but how many different ways can you make a Comic-Con presentation, right? DC just wants to make an impression. And you would think, as Poke 1855 keeps using those clever emojis with, you would think that James Gunn would want to announce and bring out his Superman Legacy cast, right? Which he's already been using to kind of try and get away from the Flash being such a huge disaster. Tweeting about that, saying like, oh, the auditions went well. And as some people are saying, what are you going to say? They went not so great. You're looking for new people now? I mean, of course. I mean, everybody can see us. I mean, there's nothing wrong with promoting your stuff, but everyone can spot a smoke screen, or as TJ Williams is saying, damage control when they see it. Hey, SoCal Life. So I feel like it would be great if he could do that, but I feel like he's probably also a little bit shaken after the Flash. Does he want to does James Gunn and company, what's that? Who's the company? Peter Safran. Peter Safran's like, do I want to go on the stage at Comic-Con? And I'd be like, I don't know if you do, Peter, quite frankly. But I don't think they're going to want to deal with everyone being like, we hate the Flash. Do they want to risk getting booed? Dominic, your chats are going through, but remember, you have to wait till I open it up to questions for me to answer it. I think that, imagine if James Gunn and company were to get booed the way Dwayne Johnson so infamously did. You don't have to apologize, Dominic. The way Dwayne Johnson got booed at Comic-Con. That was so horrible. That just shook Dwayne Johnson to his very core, and it made him push to get Henry Cavill, which he did. But it was just, it was hard to recover from that. And so I think that there's booing at Comic-Con now. David Zaslav was booed at the graduation speech that he gave. And I think that James, there are going to be a lot of Snyderverse fans. And, I would be a little, if I were James Gunn, I'd be like a scooch nervous about, and oh yeah, that's right. Thank you, Marco. Bob Chapek also got booed at D23 last year. So I'd be kind of nervous, you know. I think, you know, especially both Marvel and DC would be going into this year's Comic-Con not in a position of strength. And I think that probably makes both of them a little bit nervous. As for, will there be nothing at Comic-Con? Is Comic-Con going to be a disaster? Well, maybe they might promote something like The Boys Season 4, right? Maybe Sony will show up with Spider-Verse 3 and maybe Kraven, right? And then Warner Brothers does have a lot of movies to show off. They have a very heavy slate there for the end of the year. They've got Wonka, Aquaman 2, Dune. It would be nice to show off those films. But again, the Screen Actors Guild might be on strike. And do they really want to spend the money? But if Comic-Con implodes, that's great for Barbie versus Oppenheimer because it'll keep the conversation on them. It's nuts that those two movies are coming out the same weekend as Comic-Con because Comic-Con really detracts from anybody being able to talk. Like a fully functional Comic-Con keeps anybody from being able to talk about the movies that are actually opening that weekend. So it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we'll see what happens. All right, so now is the time where you can ask me questions about this story in particular, about Comic-Con and stuff like that. Mario says, do you think it would be better for Marvel to wipe the slate clean after the Marvels and take a break to get back on track with better stories? I feel that Marvel's main issue is the writing, to be honest with you. I really feel that way. Oh, look, Bartleby says, had a good day, wanted to pass along the good vibes. Wow, you must have had a great day, Bartleby, and you deserve it. Hope you know how much we all appreciate the work you put into making this safe space for like-minded people. Have a great day. Thanks, Bartleby. You're a sweetheart. Let's see here. Ben 10 says, maybe Marvel would have been booed at Comic-Con. I think less likely, but not impossible. Anything's on the table these days, quite frankly. Let's see here. Ray says, anything are you looking forward to at Comic-Con? I'm looking forward to The Boys. I really want to see The Boys return. I love that show, so that would make me very happy. Bruno Saporito says, how exactly do they measure, what do you mean, Roy? I don't know what that term is, on these events. Increase on subscription? Return on investment. Look at you, Bruno, with the terms. I think that, you know, it's also like social media chatter, you know, it's generated, all the articles that come out of it. It is tremendous press coverage that you get out of Comic-Con. And you build your connection with your fans. Gustavo says, would Bob Iger get booed? I can't imagine anyone booing Bob Iger. Juan Gabriel says, hi, Grace. Can they not release Loki Season 2? I think it depends how... That's another thing. Disney might be real curious what exact evidence they have from the New York District Attorney's Office. The New York District Attorney has said that the reason they're not willing to drop the charges is that they have reason to believe this is not a one-time incident, and that they have multiple other people who've come forward and said they've been physically and other abusive treatment from Jonathan Majors. So the District Attorney has built a case. And so I think, you know, Disney's probably wondering what they got. If it's really, really bad, especially after what happened with The Flash, I think it would be shocking. But I mean, I think they'd have to consider, I mean, we're in uncharted territory here, but I think they'd have to consider what the ramifications could potentially be. Stana says the market is so oversaturated with blockbusters. Why should the public pay to see abusers on screen when the next blockbuster is around the corner? That seems to definitely be the issue. Britt says the Sue Storm already signed. I don't have 100% confirmation on that, but I feel like Vanessa Kirby. I feel really good about it. I'm like 90% sure that she's Sue Storm. I'll watch as I keep hearing Gunn is going to reveal more to Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Geez, Jimmy, keep your cards close to your chest. Yeah, and he already revealed so much of it. I did hear, by the way, a rumor that it is going to be Superman versus the Authority right off the bat, which I hope is not true, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Can't imagine. To me, that just sounds like a really bad DC movie, but like from the old regime. So like nothing changed. I think that to have a Superman story up against the Authority, which is a weird group that I don't feel gels with Superman whatsoever. But I mean, it's very James Gunn though. So I really hope that is incorrect. Let's see here. Anna says, would an actor's strike impact upcoming film festivals like Comic-Con? Oh, that's a great question, Anna. I do believe that it would. But would the actor's strike last that long? But that would definitely be the same situation. The Internet Fairy says Comic-Con should just go fully digital, but then they can't have anyone pay to go and see it, which is how they make their money. Although I have to say, I really like the digital presentations that they were doing during the pandemic. DC Fandom, the first year, was incredible. And I think look how well that's a great point, the Internet's Fairy, because video games do it this way, I think with tremendous success. And they dominate the chatter and social media and the coverage. I think it's a great idea. Mr. Andrew says, if this year San Diego Comic-Con is a disaster, do you think it will have the risk of disappearing? I think there's always a risk. I mean, once E3 went the way of the dodo, I think that anybody's on the chopping block. I think Comic-Con, there have long been complaints about the way it's run. But it's hard to run a festival, though, which is why I think, D23 is done every other year, but it's hard to book all the hotel rooms and do all that stuff. So why not let Comic-Con do it for you and you just have to show up? But I think the other thing is that if you can get more and have a whole day just to yourself and not have to compete with everybody else, why not do it? And so I think that's where you could potentially have an issue. Hey, Daniel, I'm glad you're here. Let's see here. Jay King, I'm glad you like my shirt. Thank you. It's very summery. Paul Brunel says the new DC mass appeal characters needs mass appeal characters. Niche isn't working. Superman needs to go up someone familiar, like Brainiac. Duh. Faisal says thoughts on Deadpool's 3 rumored similarities to The Flash. I think it'll be more like No Way Home. I don't care. I can't wait to see the original X-Men again from the Fox movies. I don't really care what the structure is. Bring it on. Because I'm a super X-Men fan, as many of you know. Preston Scott, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. That's very generous of you. Haunted Autumn says, thoughts that Loki Season 2 gets pushed. Release date potentially so close to a verdict for Majors doesn't seem like a wise play. I think there's 2 months basically from his court date, so they just have to really hear the opening salvo, and then they can be like, I don't know if they'd push it. I think they're either gonna release it or scrap it. Let's see here. I want to make sure I got everybody's super chats. I think I'm pretty caught up there. Yep. Yuppers. Let's see here. Official Liam says, I really hate that the Marvels won't get a big Comic-Con panel. Did you hear about the positive public screening for the films that have happened? I'm annoyed they screened the Marvels so early because both end credit scenes, I think one of them leaked, and I hope the other one never does because it's amazing. Really. I will not tease it at all. Blue Moose, that's right. Nintendo Direct had something this morning and did very well. Ilion says, could they do something like Disney's investor call from 2020 where they announce a bunch of stuff? They could decide to do that instead, or Kevin Feige could just have a presentation. But an investor call is a little bit better because there's no press for that. If he does a presentation, he has to invite the press, and then the press have to ask questions, and they freak out and go, oh my God, and the answers are so bad. Steven says, couldn't other actors' contracts prevent them from not releasing Loki Season 2? Well, do those actors really want to be in something like that? Hey, Dirty Blonde. I mean, they're not getting payouts because it's, you get your money up front on a show like that. And do they really want to have that situation? I mean, I think, they'd at least have to have a powwow about it. Alwatch says, I know you get better coverage from home, but don't you miss the booths from Comic-Con? I bet you did stop by. I did stop by Disneyland. But I have to tell you, when I'm working at these events, I have so much work to do that I don't see anybody. I don't get to really do anything. I don't get to enjoy it as a fan because I'm working. So I'd rather just go to Disneyland and Disney World separately, Frog Eater says, well, I'm pleasantly surprised Deadpool 3 moved up by 6 months to May 3rd. I hope it doesn't mean the CGI looks rushed given Marvel's VFX woes. I heard they're de-aging a lot of people. So I hope it looks good too. All right, let's see. All right, you guys want to fast forward to the next story? I think we're good to go for the next story. That was a good one. That was a good one. All right, story number 2. Hold on. Wait a second. Brian says, if the superhero genre dies out, what do you believe? I don't believe the superhero genre will ever totally die out, but I think they're probably going to create less content for it. And, I think we can go into space. We can have video games. There's all kinds of stuff we can do. I think it's really also, I got to tell you, Side note, Christina, so generous. Oh, and look at the cat picture to boot. That's amazing. But I will just tell you really quickly, I feel like the main problem is the writing on everything. A good movie will do well. And I recognize the issues with The Flash, even though for me, I still enjoyed it. It reminds me of Batman v Superman in that regard. Like, the second time I saw it, I was like, oh, I can see why some people wouldn't like this. Because it's a lot of deep cuts, which worries me about James Gunn's choices for DC. Like, I went with somebody who didn't know any of the cameos. They were like, why is Nicolas Cage here? And they forgot that George Clooney played Batman. And I was like, wow, no wonder you don't like this movie. Andrew says, first time, long time, do you think Marvel feels the pressure to course correct while DC and Sony are still stumbling? Apparently not. They're not doing any course correcting. Juan says, can you do a poll regarding superhero movies? There is fatigue. Yeah, I did see that poll. All right, let's move on to the next story. All right, hold on. Story, Bumblebee. That's very nice. Oh, I like that. That's such a great picture. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. All right, story number 2. Boop. Ooh, Ryan Murphy making money. By the way, Ryan Murphy's company gets this money. Ryan Murphy gets a sizable chunk of it. Like his Netflix deal, which is just ending, which was a 5-year deal, was worth $300 million. But he delivered on it, unlike J.J. Abrams' $500 million Warner Brothers deal. Ryan Murphy actually delivered. Boy, did he. He gets a little rocky to begin with, but he really came through like a superstar at the end. And we're going to go over his slate of shows in a minute, but All in the Game just pointed out some of the good ones. So yes, he is moving. He was at FX. Hey, Marvel hero. Ryan Murphy was at FX, and then Netflix lured him away with this $300 million deal. And of course they did. But now Dana Walden, who worked with him when Ryan Murphy was back at Fox, FX, she's now the co-chairwoman of Disney Entertainment. And so she got him to come back. Although he will continue to do more editions of Monster and The Watcher for Netflix going forward. So his relationship with Netflix isn't totally over, but that's no longer his home. As some of you are pointing out, Netflix still has Shonda Rhimes, who is also a super powerhouse. And by the way, they also got her from Disney, interestingly enough. And if you've never heard the story, the reason Shonda Rhimes, the main reason she left Disney is that she wanted her children's babysitter to take them to Disneyland. So she needed some passes. And she asked Disney to give them some extra passes so that this individual could take her children and some friends, I think, into the park. And Disney was like, well, there's a limit on the number of passes that we can give out. And Shonda Rhimes, as she should be, was so insulted that Disney would not give her a pass, considering how much money she makes for them, that she left the company and went to Netflix. And she's like, I'll just buy my own darn passes. But I thought that was hilarious. Very funny. Good for Shonda Rhimes. Quite the flex. All right, so Ryan Murphy, though, he is great. I think that Disney Plus, as you know, is considering folding in Hulu in the United States or North America, just like they've done with Star and other parts of the world. And I think they want to give a little more flavor to Disney Plus. It's very vanilla right now. It's all just Disney, which I like. I like it. I think one of the reasons Disney Plus was so popular at first is people were like, it's just Disney in my house. But I feel they don't, as Cosmix is pointing out, they don't have enough adult entertainment. And I think that, it's largely used probably as a babysitting service for kids. And just like they discovered in their theme parks, you really have to appeal to all ages. And adults are very important. So I think they're trying to get more of that type of content on there. So let's take a look at Ryan Murphy's work, for those of you who maybe might not be familiar with it, and you'll understand why he's such a powerhouse. Also, he does a lot of LGBT content, which, I think he does very good LGBT content. Disney, by the way, just fired, while she left, their head of diversity and inclusion. They'll have another head of diversity and inclusion, as they should, but maybe someone who will do a better job of better representation and doing these things more organically. I think that they were a little heavy-handed, which is what's been hurting them. And again, representation that fails commercially is not good representation because it only hurts those groups. So let's see. Mika, I think that Dahmer is, I can understand why people would say they didn't think that it was good LGBT entertainment, but I think that it really pointed out who Jeffrey Dahmer's victims were, that they were from the LGBT community, and that because of the horrible stereotypes and prejudices at the time, people didn't take their reports and their safety as seriously as they should. So I didn't watch Dahmer, it was too much for me, but I did feel that that was an important distinction to make. And as some people have pointed out, is like what Math said, Ryan Murphy is, of course, himself LGBT. Now, that doesn't mean he automatically, everything an LGBT person makes isn't automatically perfect and fantastic. But with Ryan Murphy, I feel it usually is. I think Ryan Murphy's very talented. Stephen Turner says Ryan did The Normal Heart, which was phenomenal. Yeah, he also did some movies that are not going to be on this list. I'm just looking at his TV work. But he also did the film adaptation of The Boys in the Band for Netflix, which I thought was quite strong. That's right, Pose. So let's look at this stuff, all right? So this is Ryan Murphy's work. His whole career. He actually has not made that many shows, interestingly enough. I have a little arrow here. So he started out with Popular back in 1999. Some of you might recall that. Hi, Isaiah. And that was on the WB. But the show that really put him on the map, even before Glee, was Nip Tuck. Nip Tuck was an incredible show. It was like really fantastic. It was really sexy. It was really all over the place. I think it was Ryan Murphy really finding his voice. It was a phenomenal show. It was one of the early kind of streaming type shows. So that's Nip Tuck. And for those of you who don't know, the guy, he was Dr. Doom, like Julian something, like the one of the two doctors. He went on to be Dr. Doom in one of the Fantastic Four movies, but he's kind of faded away. But the other guy, Dylan something, he was recently General Sam Lane on the Lois and Clark, Superman and Lois show on the CW. Julian McMahon, thank you. Julian McMahon they both were great on that show. This is a very good show. If you ever Dylan Walsh, thank you. If you're ever looking for something to watch, go watch Nip Tuck. It's incredible. Then Glee, of course, was also, for a while, extremely successful. And so was American Horror Story. There's The New Normal, as you pointed out, Stephen. And so you can see a lot of this stuff is for Fox and FX. That's where he was working. Scream Queens, I think, was, that's still, has its fans. A lot of great memes and GIFs came out of that for Emma Roberts. And she infamously turned down the Harley Quinn role so that she could be in Scream Queens, interestingly enough. That was a mistake. But I think where I feel like Ryan Murphy leveled up again, in my opinion, was American Crime Story. That's also what finally put Sarah Paulson on the map. Phenomenal work there. Everybody on that. That's another thing. If you haven't watched the O.J. Simpson American Crime Story, go watch it. It's incredible. I feel the follow-ups have not been as strong, but that was so good. Feud also, it's taken a long time for Feud to come back. They're doing a Truman Capote one, but Feud was also, this is just great stuff. He's kind of like the Bravo of dramatic television. He's great. I love Bravo to some degree, as you know. All right, so Pose, also groundbreaking. Really fantastic show. A ton of awards. Also launched some big name talent, which have become household names, like Billy Porter. And I'm blanking on the actress. MJ Rodriguez, I think is the name, right? I think the two biggest names to come out of that show, and who have continued to do really fantastic work. So that, all right. Then when he went over to Netflix, all right, he started out with The Politician, which I think was only medium. But that was his first thing. And I think when that came out, I remember we were all kind of like, did he drop the ball? Did he lose all his ability as soon as he got over here for $300 million? But then same with Hollywood. It wasn't starting out so good. And Ratched. Ratched got a lot of attention, especially because everyone was in love with Sarah Paulson at that point. But I did not care for any of those three. I didn't like The Politician, I didn't like Hollywood, and I didn't like Ratched. Although I watched Hollywood and Ratched all the way through because I liked the visuals. So in some cases, they're very, very sexy shows, but I like the Technicolor look of both of them, quite frankly. Halston, though, was brilliant. Didn't get as much attention. Ewan McGregor picked up a couple of awards for this, but I thought Halston made me cry. I thought Halston was just so good, so strong. But you can see the kind of content that he makes. And they saying Disney Plus, LP. Like, this doesn't seem like he fits with the Disney Plus brand. So there must be big changes coming for Disney Plus if he would sign a Disney Plus deal. Because this is very different types of content. He's continuing to make American Horror Stories, as you know. Oh, that's the anthology spinoff. Monster, again, I didn't watch Monster because it was just too intense for me. But I obviously love the talent that was involved there, and that was a ratings phenomenon for Netflix. So was The Watcher, interestingly enough. And I couldn't cover everything today, but I don't know if you saw it. But Netflix, yeah, Juan Gabriel, this almost confirms that Hulu is going to Disney Plus. But they decided they're changing the way they do viewership ratings on Netflix. Instead of just minutes viewed, they are now going to divide the minutes by the runtime, so it's actual views. And that made Wednesday the most watched Netflix show of all time, beating out Stranger Things Season 4, which is incredible. But The Watcher actually really benefited from this and popped up into some, and also that's right, Ricardo, 91 days instead of the first 28, so that in case shows kind of are a slow burn, they can still get the recognition they deserve. I love The Watcher too, Ray. The Watcher was great, Austin. I really recommend The Watcher. I thought it was so fun, and I watched it very fast. It was incredible. Highly recommend The Watcher. See, Tiff liked it. And then he still has a chorus line, which would be, it's interesting that he would do that for Netflix. And a couple of other things, as you can see. But what a legacy. What a legacy. And what a get. What an incredible get for Disney Plus. But I do think that this really does, as you guys are saying, I agree that pretty much confirms that they're going to be putting Hulu on Disney Plus or something like that because they need. You want to have your favorite Ryan Murphy show? Okay, what's Ryan Murphy's most iconic show? I don't even think we have enough categories. What is Ryan Murphy's most iconic show? Oh my goodness. I don't even know how to narrow it down. Dahmer? Glee? That's not going to be in order. I think American Horror Story? And I got to put Pose on there, I think. They're all so good, though. You should really watch his stuff. If you were interested in something, the ones that I would recommend, I think they're all good. I mean, you just read a synopsis and see what you'd be interested in. I wish I could have put Nip Tuck on their LP, but it only gives me 4 choices. All right, so while everybody's voting, does anybody have any questions about Ryan Murphy going to Disney Plus? Nacho, the O.J. Simpson show is his masterpiece, but since the other seasons were weak, I didn't include it in the poll. That's why I did that. Mika says, does he own his shows on Netflix? He does not. That's why he paid so much. He was paid so much money up front. Netflix owns those shows. Bruno says, I would love a feud for DC, The Rock versus Jimmy. That would be hilarious. That would be really funny. I think obviously the real DC feud would, I don't know. It's still too fresh. But I think you'd have to do Zack Snyder probably versus Warner Brothers executives. Because that went on for so long. And it just got so insane. He hasn't announced any shows, Mr. Magic, because he just signed this deal. And also the writers are on strike. So he can't really come up with anything without violating the strike. The Internet Fairy says, do you think Disney is using him to improve their LGBT image? I sure do. I sure do. For sure. And they desperately need it. So I think that's a good idea. Haunted Autumn, Feud Snyderverse would actually be so successful. It would be nuts. I would love to see that. It would be interesting. I don't think you could do it for a while though, because it's really juicy. It's worse than, it's more petty and ridiculous than you could ever imagine. You could do Chapek versus Iger too. Josh loves movies. That would be interesting too. That's right, Ethan. A Tale of Two Bobs. I like that one. That's hilarious. Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. Everybody likes Iger versus Chapek. Dolan says, I wonder if Ryan is trying to make a feud season centering on the Waking Sleeping Beauty era of the House of Mouse. Oh, but I don't know if there's any need to do that. I think they were, everybody just kind of was a little annoyed with Jeffrey Katzenberg, but Jeffrey Katzenberg was right. Catalan says, would you give the Young Avengers to Ryan Murphy? No, I would not. I let Ryan Murphy stay in Ryan Murphy's wheelhouse. You know who I'd give the Young Avengers to? I'd give the Young Avengers to Alan Heinberg, who not only wrote the Young Avengers and co-created them, but was the showrunner on Sandman for Netflix and did a phenomenal job. So let him come in here and do his own stuff. That's what I would do. 1,000%. And Alan Heinberg is also LGBT. So I know that he would do a very good job at the representation, which is why Young Avengers has such good representation, quite frankly. And then says, and Oakland Sir says, do you think Disney will let Ryan make adult horror? I think that it will be a mix to a degree. But I think that they want, obviously, more adult content on here. All right, let's go to the next story of the day. Hold on. That's right, Alan. That's right, Bara. Alan Heinberg helped write the first Wonder Woman and was crucial to that success. Horrible what they did to him. Jason says, how much more does Disney need to do for their LGBT image? They started in fight with an entire state. Well, I don't think so. But Jason, their LGBT content, I feel, is not good. That's the real issue. All right, let's go on to Zazie, because this is pretty juicy stuff. All right, boom, baby. Oh, Zazie. So I think, David Zaslav, as I long said, pay attention not to what the man says, but what he does. And he's been busy. So I think it's pretty clear at this point that David Zaslav doesn't value the prestige of the brand. I think he feels he knows what he's doing because he made, let me end the poll. Hold on. I forgot the poll. Thanks, Lisa. American Horror Story won at 45%. I've never watched that. Too scary for me. With Glee at 37, Dahmer at 10, and Pose at 7. That's fascinating. All right, back to Zazie. So Zazie has been quite successful with Discovery content, okay, which is quite different than HBO and Warner Brothers content. And I think, he's often there's quotes of him being very disdainful about dramas. He prefers reality TV because he feels it's more cost effective. And I think it's similar to, in my opinion, what Disney did when they bought Fox. It's very Succession-y. I don't know if you watched the final season of Succession, but Alexander Skarsgård character says, I'm basically just buying Waystar Royco for parts. And that's what Disney did with Fox. And that's what Discovery is doing with Warner Brothers. However, a lot of people feel like, well, Discovery should be the parts and Warner Brothers should be the main thing that swallows it. So it's weird to see Warner Brothers get swallowed by Discovery. You're like, how did that happen? And especially because they're so different in terms of the brands that they are. So he's made a lot of crazy changes with DC. Let's see how Gunn and Safran work out. It's not going well so far. The Batgirl thing was really divisive and quite a scandal. CNN is still reeling and currently without a head. He gutted HBO Max, which I told you he would do. And it was early days, but I told you that he was planning to gut HBO Max, and he did. And then there were some very disturbing headlines yesterday, which is why we're discussing it today. All right, so the first, hold on, is that TCM has now been destroyed. The upper ranks of TCM are done. I don't think TCM is necessarily going away. Well, TCM hasn't been the same since the unfortunate passing of Robert Osborne. I'll never forget, I grew up watching Robert Osborne. It gave me a love of classic films. Robert Osborne was the heart and soul of that network. I once was passing him on the street and I had to stop him and say, you've really changed my life and I love your work so much. And he was very gracious. It was right towards the end of his life. And they have never been able to replace him effectively. I think, they have a handful of hosts now and they're fine. But, I used to watch the intros to Turner Classic movies, and now I fast forward them. But it's still a great way to learn about Turner Classic Movies. Ghostin', that's what TCM is. Turner Classic Movies, and also when I saw the new Max site, I was really saddened to see that a lot of the TCM hub had been removed, and that a lot of the classic films overall had been removed. The Turner Classic Movies had been removed from the site. And that was really, really sad. And I think that it'll still stick around, but who knows what it will look like. It might focus on more recent classics. It's still very jarring to me to see movies from the 80s classified as classics. I'm like, that's not a classic movie. I guess to some people it is. But I would really hate to lose the focus on the amazing movies of particularly the 40s, 50s, and 60s, which really made Hollywood. If you can't really be a film fan if you don't know those movies. As I've often said, if you subscribe to Turner Classic Movies and just watch the movies that they recommend and just check out the 4-star picture ones, you'll basically be able to send yourself to film school to a degree. So that was the first headline, and people are like, it couldn't get any worse, but then it did. Then it got worse. But it might be, I don't know, it could be beneficial to some of these shows, but this was indeed a streaming shocker, as you can see how it was billed. So late yesterday, it was announced that David Zaslav and company, against the wishes of HBO said, please don't do this. And Warner Brothers Discovery said, too bad, we need the money. So Warner Brothers Discovery they're still exploring the idea. The deal could fall through, but they want to license their HBO original series to Netflix. So the content would no longer be exclusive to the HBO brand or Max. So to go from HBO being the brand that the streaming service was built around to now not even having exclusive control of their own content, Casey Bloys must be like, why did I just sign a contract extension? Casey Bloys, I think, felt he was immune and would be, he'd been given a longer leash than other divisions by David Zaslav. But now it seems Zaslav was saving the worst for last. So Bubbles Emporium, what this means is that you could watch, like Insecure, on Netflix. You would not have to be subscribed to Max to be able to watch HBO shows, particularly some of the older ones. This might not work for current shows, but older shows you would be able to watch on Netflix. Now, on the one hand, this might expand the reach of some of these shows. Some of these shows that maybe people didn't give a whirl when they were on HBO or Max, but because people watch Netflix, I think, differently, and it has so many more subscribers, maybe more people would discover the show. I mean, look what Netflix did for Spider-Verse. Look at the blow up between Spider-Verse, the first movie, and the second. But I do really think that it hurts the HBO brand. Why not just grow HBO as a service? And heck, everybody saw The Last of Us, so I think they're doing okay. But I think it'll be interesting to see. Clearly, it's just to get money, just like for some reason they've also allowed DC content and DC characters to be licensed to other places, like Amazon is getting the Batman animated series, although apparently that's going to be horribly inappropriate because Bruce Timm says, hey, I don't have any censors. And the entire internet got scared. They were like, oh no, you need a censor. This is horrifying. It's just like James Gunn really desperately needs a censor. I hope Superman is rated PG-13, man. But I think this is just a horrid idea. But let me ask you, maybe you might feel that with the expanded audience, maybe it's not horrible, right? So let's see here. How do you feel about HBO original content on Netflix? Hate it? Love it? As long as only older shows, and then could expand audience. There you go. So you can vote on that. Does anybody have any questions while you can vote on this story? CH, I would suspect it's mostly back catalog, but we don't know for sure because the deal's still being ironed out. That's funny, Jay Alexander. Zaslav is auditioning for Lex Luthor. That's pretty funny. That's very clever. Jason says Zazzy is a sleazy used car salesman who was given a Bentley dealership and then put a crazy dancing tube guy out front. That's funny. I mean, I would be curious to know what the numbers are for Max. If Zazzy comes out of the gate and at the next earnings call is like, look how well Max is performing, then I'll be like, well, what can I say? Society is doomed. Bumblebee says he may as well slap a for sale sticker on the Max logo. Yeah, I told you, there are rumors that he wants to sell the whole thing to Universal. He already made $250 million personally off of it, which the Writers Guild is very quick to remind everybody off of the first deal. CH, he only gets a stock bonus if the stock performs very well, and it ain't doing well at the moment. He does seem to be having a Warner Brothers garage sale, though. Wellman says, how does this affect the sale price of Warner Brothers when Zaslav eventually moves to sell it to Universal? I'm not sure. That's a great question. I think they're so cash poor right now. And by the way, being cash poor is what created all the issues for AT&T. When they first bought Warner Brothers, they couldn't afford it either. Brett Crandall says, how would the talent behind the HBO shows be compensated? Well, they get a percentage of the licensing deal, just like when you would license a show to anyone else. And this could be the beginning of the end of everybody having their own streaming service. Well, because, I think even Zazie, did he comment on the consolidation, the potential consolidation of streaming services? That might happen. And I think this is like the beginning of that, where it's like, it's stupid for everybody to have their own service when we could just make money. Like Sony's doing very well working just with Netflix. Hey, that's very generous of you, Nicholas. Thank you. Danny says, it will be HBO for me always. Quality content. And Donnell says, if it means that I have to sub to less services, I'm game. Yeah, that could be very interesting. Zazie might end up undercutting Max significantly. Zaire says, Netflix definitely helped Shameless from Showtime. That's a great point. Dre Film says, I could see it being beneficial if he releases only the first season and then puts to continue watching, subscribe to Max. I don't know if Netflix would agree with that, though, because the whole point of Netflix is they want it to binge. They want you to binge. All right, let me end the poll, and then we'll do a quick Ask Me Anything. I've got about 10 minutes for you guys. Let's see here. So 31%, you guys have mixed feelings on this. 31% hate it. 28% feel it could expand the audience. 21% of you love it because this is anonymous. And 19% feel as long as it's only older shows. So all of you are okay with it. 70% of it, basically. 70% of you feel there might be something here. Dancing Dog 60. People were talking about your generosity at the beginning of the stream. And here you are. But that's very interesting. Let's see here. Alicia says it will still be HBO content, though. It just won't be on the HBO app. That's true. And they could come up with they have the HBO intro, right? Oh, Luna, thank you for gifting a membership. So I think it's interesting. We'll see what they decide to do. Hey, Michael. All right. So any questions about this? Let's see here. Let's go on to the Ask Me Anything. Okay, hold on. All right, hold on. All right, Q&A time for 10 minutes until 4:10. Then I must go. Jason Acker says Netflix helped Outlander's audiences as well, but they help shows that need it. HBO's best doesn't. That's right, but they could do the smaller ones. And I think maybe that would work. Mr. Real Shane says, Grace, I love the diamond badge, but I have a long time to go. That's okay. It's, badge goals. Hashtag badge goals. Do you have to wait or can I get it earlier? Oh, no, don't worry. Right now you're like on silver. It looks good on you. Soon you'll have a gold. You'll get there. I also have no control over it. I set the badges up. Emmett Wright says, did you see that Issa Rae is opening an ad agency? I work in advertising and I'm super excited. Her and Ryan Reynolds. That's right, Emmett. The new frontier. Well, good for Issa Rae for diversifying her portfolio. Hey, Carlos, thank you. Isaiah says, where did that go? Isaiah says, Avatar 2 is on multiple streaming platforms and still a massive success. If anything, having more access and more audience would make a project more successful. That's a fair point, Isaiah. I think we're all disgusted at first, but then when you hear some of this, you're like, maybe. I did see the Zendaya tennis trailer movie. I'm glad it got her trending. That's just not for me, that kind of stuff. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, so sometimes I just totally sidestep something if I don't think I have something to, if I just don't think it's for me. Kendi says, Insider reviewed video confirming Major's events. Can you clarify your statement on him including dating? Kendi, I'm just talking about the fact that I don't think any of the evidence that has been shown exonerates him, and some of it I feel so far is pretty damning. And I would say that about anybody. Let's see here. Jake Van Norden says, been watching the 50-minute episodes of Secret Invasion for 30 hours. Had to take a break to watch the live. So slow. I hope it gets better. Yeah, it's very slow in my opinion, Jake. Super, super slow. The second episode is not any better, but I haven't seen the back 4, so maybe it really picks up. Shahar says, thoughts on El Muerto. For those of you who don't know, the Bad Bunny El Muerto Sony's Spider-Man-less movie just lost its release date today and was taken off the schedule. I wonder if Craven was the reaction. Everybody just laughed at it so hard that Sony, maybe that was finally the wake-up call that we've wanted them to hear. Whelm says, did you see the new Insider article on Jonathan Majors' case? I think that I have not read that, to be fair, and I'll take a look at it. But I am curious to see what the New York District Attorney has. I feel like a lot of Jonathan Majors' behavior, I think Jonathan Majors' behavior isn't helping him. Because that would help me maybe feel like, oh, maybe this was all, incorrect. I think at this point he's heading towards a situation where the best he can hope for is to be Johnny Depp, where people are bitterly divided on whether or not he's innocent, but it still hurts his career. Daniel Perdomo says, why do they have Max then if they'll be on Netflix? Well, because that has all the Discovery content. And I think, clearly they're not making tons of money off of Max or they wouldn't be trying to do this. I think they just want to make money. They just want you to see their content. Trisha says, when will Guardians 3 be on digital? That's a good question. They haven't announced it yet. But I think, it's usually... Well, it took 3 months to get on Disney+. I would say maybe sometime in July. Katie Lady says, do you have any updates on She-Ra at Amazon? Are the scripts done? I have not heard anything, Katie Lady. I'm sorry to say about that. Writer Boy says, any advice on having a nice Twitter account? Just be nice on it. Let's see here. Hey, Keem. Welcome back. Azen says, Grace, did you see that Marvel posted the cast reading the Secret Invasion comic? That was foul, knowing they have never read it. Well, to be fair, maybe the cast read it. But they have to show the director reading it. Because he's the one who told everybody he didn't read it. Kevin Cisneros says, you withholding your disappointment and smiling instead in the Secret Invasion interview when he said he was told not to read the comic was so funny. Yeah, you got to keep it professional. You got to be polite. And the answer speaks for itself, quite frankly. The Internet's Fairy, I did see the Barbie tickets are out, and I got them. Jason says, do you think that splitting properties, even if it makes more money, is worth the dilution of the brand? I think that HBO will become a content brand rather than a channel streaming brand. That's what will basically have to be the change. Happy Pride to you too, John Thrasher. Thanks for being, my pleasure to be a huge ally. Have you heard any Harry Potter casting production news at all? No, I haven't. I think everything's really kind of just ground to a halt because of the writer's strike and the pending Screen Actors strike. Blatino Boy says, Grace, I know you and Timothée Chalamet, you said Timothée Chalamet is Johnny Depp's understudy and Tom Holland should study Tom Hanks. Would you agree that John Boyega would be Denzel Washington's understudy? It's a tall order to try and follow in Denzel Washington's footsteps because he broke barriers. But I think, I could see that. I like John Boyega. I thought they cloned Tyrone. I thought that trailer looked pretty good. Electrobolt7 says, I gotta go, but I wanted to use my super chat for the first time. Oh, I love it. Before I forget this month. Thank you for what you do, Grace. My pleasure. I hope you have a great day. Let's see here. Fritz says, not a question, but I want to say I thank you for saying please like. I think you should please say like and subscribe more in your videos, not just your live stream. I say it at the end, but maybe I'll start saying it at the beginning. I'll play around with it. Thank you for the suggestion, Fritz. Let's see here. Hector Vega says the new Barbie spot has new footage that better shows the money. Have you seen it? No, I have not seen it. I try not to watch TV spots, just trailers. Allison Acidland says, lavender or mint? I actually don't like lavender, so mint all the way. David Kyle says, fell asleep watching Secret Invasion and bam. Another one of my favorites. Oh yeah, that's funny. That's funny, David. That'll wake you up, right? Marvelous Jack says, do you think Secret Invasion should have been an Avengers movie? Heck yeah, as people are saying, it should have been a whole phase. And then Owl Watch says, have you read any comics? I like the new Titans lineup and would love to see them in live action. I have been reading that. Have the League sidekicks. Well, also, I don't know. I liked having the Justice League, and I like the Titans being their own thing, quite frankly. Yoram says, do you think The Flash will make $1 billion? Nope. I don't even think it's going to make $500 million at this point. I'm very curious to see the second weekend drop. Jico, who says, Grace, thoughts on Disney's Once Upon a Time in the Studio being played before Wish? I hear it's phenomenal. That's a short that they're making about the history of Disney animation, and I'm very excited to see it. No, Andrew, something happened. I couldn't make the screening yesterday, so I actually will not be reviewing No Hard Feelings, I'm sorry to say. Luis says, when will The Little Mermaid be on digital? Maybe for the 4th of July holiday, although I don't know if they want to hurt Indiana Jones like that, so maybe a little bit after. Bye, Danny. Bye, Danny. Let's see. Anything else? I'm almost got to go. William Wallace says, I love The Flash. Was only disappointed to not see Michelle Pfeiffer. That's right. She was the amazing Catwoman. She was so good. Darth Gutierrez says, are you looking forward to Equalizer 3? I sure am. That looks fun to me. On the Internet's Fairy says, please recommend a classic film. Well, you know what I would recommend? I would recommend going to AFI. They have a list of the top 100 movies of all time, and that is a great place to start. I would try very hard to make sure you've seen as many of those movies as possible. Alex says, did you see that they've Marvel announced a new Ultimate Universe? Aw, man. I don't know. Comics are in such a rut these days. Hey, CJ. Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Okay. Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. That used to be my other news show, but it wasn't live. I like doing the lives more. I think the afternoon is good. Mr. Andrews says, is there any timeline for SAG striking? Well, no, by the end of the month. That's the deadline for them to reach a new deal. And Jay King says, very disappointed in Marvel for using AI to create the Secret Invasion intro. They have the money to hire real artists, and they should. I agree. I tweeted about that. Someone was like, your tweet is insulting, Grace. And I'm like, it was meant to be insulting. That's exactly what I intended. Success! TJM says, hi, Grace. Would you rather see Spider-Man fight Scorpion, Venom, or Kingpin next, maybe in Daredevil? I like the Kingpin thing, especially since Vincent D'Onofrio was kind of making it like a thing outside of the movies even. He was like, I'm going to get that little bug. And I was like, that's awesome. Lisa said, my husband has decided to wait until Flash comes out on HBO Max. Yeah, it lost all its Dolby screens this weekend. It's they're going between Elemental and Spider-Verse got them back. So if you wanted to see Spider-Verse on a premium screen, check out the ticket sales this weekend. Josh Loves Movies says, thoughts on Wish having a $200 million budget like Elemental? I don't think Wish is going to succeed either. I think they have a lot of overhauling to do at Disney. And I still think they have more people to phase out, I think is a politer way to say it. All right, let me get a couple of these things in here. Mr. Long Monkey says, MCU Secret Invasion is turning out to be a poor man's Peacemaker. Well, I didn't care for what I read about Peacemaker in advance, so I didn't watch the show, but that's a really low bar. Let's see here. Anish says, wanted to use my first super chat to say you're awesome. Thanks you, Anish. That's so sweet of you. And Frog Reader says, I hope Disney's Wish is as big as Moana financially. That would not be big enough, but it would be better than other stuff. It's got to be at least better than, as long as it's better than like Strange World. Faisal says, hey Grace, do you think Inside Out 2 could be the film that brings back Disney Pixar at the box office? Well, I think all these sequels that Bob Iger greenlit I think should hopefully be good. Again, it's all the writing. The writing is awful, which is why it's so ironic that we're doing a writer's strike right now. All right, I better get going. I'm sorry I didn't get to do shout outs, but I have to get going. Andrew, I think that a Snow White tease, I think they're probably nervous about it after Little Mermaid. But I mean, probably maybe with Wonka, that seems like a good fit to me. Or, you know what, maybe in front of Hunger Games, because they both have Rachel Zegler. All right, I got to get going, you guys. Trisha, let me go back and get your super chat, Trisha. Hold on. I really got to go, though. How far back was this, Trisha? Oh, no. Oh, thanks, Billy. I'm glad you like my hair today. Trisha says, my friend who worked on VFX for Percy Jackson says they are spending a lot of money and has extreme confidence. I have no doubt that Percy Jackson probably looks great, but I question the broad appeal of a show that has almost only children in it. I mean, it has the adult Greek gods in it, so let's see how that turns out. Although, of course, Lance Riddick, who plays Zeus, unfortunately passed away. All right, everybody. See you tomorrow for another live stream. It'll be earlier tomorrow. It'll probably be like around 12 o'clock or maybe even 11:30. Okay, everybody. Bye. I love you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.